WADR. Promoting dialogue.
It's midday in Dakar, 1 p.m. in Lagos. Good afternoon and welcome to NEWSLINK, live on West Africa, Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and online at WADR.org. Here are the top stories. ECOWAS calls for restraint and peaceful resolution of border disputes within Mana River Basin. Senegal's Prime Minister Sonko announces decision to renegotiate key mining, telecom and energy contracts, citing major financial losses to the state.
The discussions are being conducted in a consensual manner. We will no longer sign consensus with partners and then wait 25 years to review them.
IOM reveals over 3.7 million Nigerians displaced by conflict and climate disasters. Cote d'Ivoire's main opposition party, PDC-RRDA, urges restraint from dissident MPs amid internal rift.
The parliamentary group is an extension of the party and a key component of its political action. As such, it has always operated and will continue to operate in accordance with the party statutes.
Please stay with us for details of these stories and more.
On the news, this is Augustine Bill Coley.
Many thanks for joining us. The Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, expresses deep concern over rising tensions along the borders shared by Guinea, Liberia, and Sierra Leone. In a press statement issued Thursday, the Commission announced the deployment of a technical assessment mission to evaluate the situation between Guinea and Sierra Leone in the Yanga border area. Recent developments along the Lofa border between Guinea and Liberia also adds new complexities to existing territorial sensitivities in the Mana River Union Basin. As a result, the ECOWAS Commission has also extended the geographical mandate of the technical mission to undertake additional diplomatic engagements to ensure a comprehensive assessment of all areas of current and potential friction. ECOWAS urges all affected member states to exercise maximum restraint, immediately de-escalate tensions, respect internationally recognized boundaries, refrain from unilateral actions that could undermine bilateral relations or regional security, and to prioritize the use of ECOWAS facilitated diplomatic channels for the peaceful resolution of disputes across the region. Meanwhile, ECOWAS has begun steps to operationalize its Economic, Social and Cultural Council, ECOSOC, to strengthen citizens' participation and deepen regional integration. ECOSOC would serve as a platform for engagement between ECOWAS institutions and non-state actors, including civil society organizations, the private sector, traditional authorities, academia, and community leaders. There is more in the following report by Nadia Dititi.
ECOWAS Commissioner for Political Affairs, Peace and Security, Dr. Abdel Fattah Musa, says operationalizing the Economic, Social and Cultural Council, ECOSOC, will help ensure that regional integration efforts are anchored in the participation and ownership of the people of West Africa. Dr. Musa noted that although ECOSOC was provided for under the 1993 reviewed ECOWAS Treaty, it has remained non-operational despite its importance to the bloc's institutional framework. He explained that the Council will create a platform for engagement between ECOWAS institutions and non-state actors, including civil society, the private sector, academia, and traditional authorities. He made the remarks at the opening of a two-day validation meeting of experts and ministers in Accra.
ECOWAS will hold a special summit in May that will adopt a compact on the future of regional integration. To have a platform for civil society so that when this compact is adopted, because it is going to be an agreement between our member states and our citizens about where regional integration should go from here. How do we fight terrorism? How do we fight violent extremism? How do we add value to our products instead of selling raw materials all the time? What are we going to do in order to add value to our economy? This is what the compact is going to talk about.
Meanwhile, Mrs. Nelly Mriku, Director of Research at Ghana's Ministry of Finance, described the meeting as a key step towards finalizing the legal and institutional framework required to make the Council operational. She added that strengthening participatory governance would further enhance regional cooperation and deepen integration among ECOWAS member states. For WADR, Nadidi Teti, Accra.
Still on ECOWAS matters, Lomé, the capital of Togo, is hosting a meeting of the ECOWAS Parliament focused on the future of education in West Africa. The four-day meeting is examining ways to better align education and training programs with the social-economic needs of the sub-region amid growing concerns about the gap between academic training and labor market demands. According to Togo's Minister of National Education, Maman Umoru, nearly 1 in 3 young people in West Africa is unemployed or underemployed. Participants are expected to propose recommendations to help strengthen technical training and promote skills-based education across ECOWAS member states. Now to matters about Niger, as the European Parliament on Thursday debated a new resolution on the detention of Niger's ousted President Mohamed Bazoum during a session held in Strasbourg, France. European lawmakers are calling for the immediate release of the former Nigerian leader. In the following report, we will hear the reactions of some Nigerians to the development. Let's hear more from Imo Edit.
The European Union Parliament on Thursday, March 12, considered a new resolution on what it describes as the arbitrary detention of Niger's President Mohamed Bazoum. The joint resolution calls for the immediate release of President Bazoum, who has been held by the current authorities in Niger since the July 2023 coup d'etat. However, Abdul Wahid Mukaila described the move as a non-event, citing the position maintained by the authorities currently in power in Niger. Similarly, Rabiu Musa Mohamedou said the European Parliament should focus on matters within its own jurisdiction.
I think the military authorities have made their position clear. Issues relating to justice and Niger's national interest concern only Nigerians and should be handled internally. We should not expect outside intervention or pressure to dictate what should be done.
Debates in the European Parliament began on the evening of Wednesday, March 11, in Strasbourg, addressing human rights violations in Niger, alongside situations in Russia and Georgia. A supporter of President Bazoum, who requested anonymity, said Niger was being governed by authorities who showed little regard for the rule of law and that the justice system had effectively collapsed. The G25 Niger group, through Tahiru Garaka, also expressed doubt that the National Council for the Safeguard of the Homeland, CNSP, would respond positively to the European Parliament's request.
The junta has consistently ignored such calls. For instance, the ECOWAS Court of Justice ordered the release of President Mohamed Bazoum, but the ruling has never been implemented.
European lawmakers said the resolution aims to condemn the detention of Mohamed Bazoum and his family while calling for the restoration of constitutional order in Niger. They also recalled that the European Parliament adopted a similar resolution nearly 2 years ago, almost unanimously condemning what it described as Bazoum's illegal detention.
Niamey correspondent Yakuba Habibullah's report, voiced by Imo Edit.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. NEWSLINK continues.
The International Organization for Migration, IOM, has revealed that more than 3.7 million people are currently living in displacement across Nigeria. The agency says persistent conflict, violence, and climate-related disasters, particularly flooding, continue to drive thousands of families from their homes. The IOM stated that the situation underscores the urgent need for stronger humanitarian coordination and long-term recovery efforts. WADR's Abuja correspondent Yeche Nusasetu reports.
The IOM Chief of Mission in Nigeria, Sharon Dimanche, disclosed this information while delivering a goodwill message at the first Edo State Humanitarian Summit in Benin City. She noted that the growing number reflects the impact of conflict.
And these people are being displaced because of conflict, climate shocks, because of environmental-related issues, because they are looking for opportunities. Our priority is to ensure that vulnerable population, those who are displaced, they receive protection immediately.
The agency also emphasized the need for stronger collaboration between government, development partners, civil society, and the private sector to address the growing humanitarian challenge. Meanwhile, the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Bernard Doro, says the federal government remains committed to strengthening support systems for displaced persons and building more resilient communities.
Practical steps to address the challenges confronting vulnerable populations in these states. This demonstrates a strong commitment to safeguarding vulnerable citizens and strengthening social resilience.
Humanitarian organizations say addressing internal displacement will require sustained investment in recovery, safe return, and community integration to help affected families rebuild their futures. For WADR, Yechene Sasitu in Abuja.
Senegal's Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko says the government will move ahead with plans to renegotiate several contracts and agreements in the telecommunications, water and mining sectors, citing major financial losses to the state. Addressing the press, Sonko highlights the findings of a government committee tasked with reviewing contracts signed by previous administrations. He said the review uncovered serious irregularities and revenue shortfalls, prompting the government to begin renegotiation of some key agreements. Christopher Atijo tells us more.
The Senegalese Prime Minister's presentation focused on what he described as problematic sectors. Ousmane Sonko said a committee had examined several contracts and agreements that were rushed through by the country's former leaders. According to the Prime Minister, this resulted in an estimated loss of 1,075 billion CFA francs in the mining sector. He said the renegotiation of contracts will first target the mining sector.
What we now want in this sector is to regain control of all the assets. Currently, we do not supply enough fertilizer for our agriculture, both in quantity and quality. Our ambition is to become the leading supplier in the sub-regional market, exporting more than 3 million tons of fertilizer annually.
Sonko added that the committee also identified revenue losses linked to the non-payment of taxes and royalties by companies that signed contracts with the states. Regarding the Yaka-Tarenga gas project, the Prime Minister said operations are expected to resume in the coming weeks.
The discussions are being conducted in a consensual manner. We have adopted a very simple strategy. From now on, whether it concerns phosphate, gas or oil, we will no longer sign concessions with partners and then wait 25 years to review them. Instead, we will first develop a strategy based on our development priorities and domestic needs, and then identify partners who are willing to align with that strategy.
He further indicated that the contract for the Grand Tortue Amayem gas project will also be renegotiated. The offshore gas project, shared by Senegal and Mauritania, is expected to help meet the country's energy needs and generate about 1,900 billion CFA francs in revenue.
Christopher, teacher reporting elsewhere in Liberia, the Ministry of Labour has unveiled a strategic plan aimed at tackling rising unemployment, particularly among young people, while strengthening protections for workers across both the public and private sectors. Speaking in Monrovia, Labour Minister Councillor Copie reaffirmed the government's commitment to enforcing the Decent Work Act of 2015, which outlines measures to improve labour standards and expand job opportunities for Liberians. WADR's Monrovia correspondent Ibrahim Parker reports.
Youth unemployment remains one of Liberia's most pressing challenges, with thousands of young people struggling to find stable employment. In response, the Ministry of Labour says it has introduced measures to prioritize local hiring, including increasing work permit fees for foreign workers from $1,000 to $3,000. Labour Minister Councillor Copie says the policy has already led to a reduction in expatriate employment, with companies such as BA reportedly cancelling more than 350 foreign worker permits to create opportunities for Liberian workers.
We will determine if the job is supposed to be done by a foreigner or Liberian. If we think Liberian can do the job, we'll not grant you that application. We thought that perhaps there's a need to look at the fees. What it has done is help us to reduce people they might consider non-essential.
On protecting workers' rights, Minister Cora says the ministry's Labor Standards Division handed more than 300 cases of unfair labor practices in the past year, ensuring compensation for several employees who were wrongfully dismissed.
Accidents in workplaces have been one of the concerns of the government, so we needed to attack it through a program. There's a provision of the Decent Work Act that gives all the authority.
The ministry has also set up a special task force to investigate hiring practices in major concession areas where reports indicate that some workers are underpaid. Authorities say the initiative will help ensure fair wages and address labor violations to improve working conditions across the country. For NEWSLINK on WADR, Abraham Parker, Monrovia.
You are listening to NEWSLINK on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Here is a reminder of our top stories. ECOWAS calls for restraint and peaceful resolution of border disputes within Mana River Basin. Senegal's Prime Minister Sonko announces decision to renegotiate key mining, telecom and energy contracts, citing major financial losses to the state. IOM reveals over 3.7 million Nigerians displaced by conflict and climate disasters. Still ahead, Cote d'Ivoire's main opposition party, PDC-RDA, urges restraint from dissident MPs amid internal rift. We also have guest interview and sports news. Please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. NEWSLINK continues.
We are streaming live on YouTube at WADR and on Facebook, WADR English Service. The leadership of the Democratic Party of Cote d'Ivoire, PDC-RDA, is calling on members of parliament who have suspended their participation in the party's parliamentary group to exercise calm and restraint. The party also denounces what it describes as unilateral initiatives by some MPs, saying such actions run contrary to the principles and values of the political formation. The development comes as the PDC-RDA, Cote d'Ivoire's main opposition party, prepares to mark the 80th anniversary of its funding at a time when it is grappling with internal tensions. In a statement issued by Nawan Genevieve, Executive Secretary in charge of Economic and Social Affairs, the party reminded members that the parliamentary group is an extension of the PDC-RDA and a key component of its political action.
Le PDCI-RDA tient à rappeler que le groupe parlementaire.
The PDCI-RDA wishes to recall that the parliamentary group is an extension of the party and a key component of its political action. As such, it has always operated and will continue to operate in accordance with the party statutes, as well as the principles of collegiality and collective discipline that underpin any structured political organization. The PDCI-RDA also confirms that the appointment of leaders of the parliamentary group and party members serving on the Bureau of National Assembly falls under the exclusive prerogative of the party president. In the current political context, marked by strong expectations from party members and the general public, the PDCI-RDA calls on all its elected officials and leaders to exercise restraint and remain loyal to the organization that supported their election. The party remains open to any initiative aimed at preserving unity and strengthening cohesion.
Ouvert à toute démarche permettant de préserver l'unité et la cohésion.
Executive Secretary in charge of Economic and Social Affairs of the PDCRRDA, Nanua Genevieve. In the Gambia, the National Council for Civic Education has launched a series of dialogue sections with political actors and community leaders to promote peaceful political participation ahead of the 2026 presidential election. The initiative, implemented with Catholic Relief Services under its Hope project, aims to strengthen social cohesion and reduce political tensions as the country approaches the polls. The sessions, running from March 10th to the 14th, are expected to engage about 550 influential voices across 5 regions, including the Upper River, Central River, North Bank, Lower River, and West Coast regions. From Banjul, WADR's Sanduna Bendi reports.
According to the National Council for Civic Education, the sessions will engage hundreds of influential voices across several regions of the country to encourage dialogue and tolerance among political actors and citizens. Organizers say the initiative is designed to create a platform where stakeholders can openly discuss political tensions, misinformation, and the growing use of abuse language in the political discourse. Speaking at the opening ceremony, NCCE Program Manager Ansumana Sise said dialogue among political actors and communities is critical to maintaining peace as the country prepares for the next presidential election.
We are here for a mission on national preservation. This project is part of NCC's strategic action to the futures of our society. It is designed to ensure that the smiling coast does not just smile for the cameras, but smiles because its soul is at peace and it is capable and people are united. As the 2026 electoral cycle draws near, the sovereignty of the Gambia resides in the Gambian people.
Meanwhile, Ijetu Jallo, the ward councillor for Basse Ward, Upper River Region, urged political actors and supporters to reject violence and practice tolerance during the electoral period. She emphasized that peaceful elections depend not only on institutions but also on the behavior of citizens and political players.
Peace for 2026 election. I'm urging each and everyone in this hall to use it at the Bantaba, WhatsApp groups, even at the mosques or any other religious places. Let us all share this information and the program so that we can have a peaceful election.
The dialogue sessions are expected to continue across the targeted regions in the coming days as part of efforts by the National Council for Civic Education and its partners to promote tolerance, peaceful political engagement, and social cohesion ahead of the 2026 polls. For NEWSLINK on West Africa Democracy Radio, I am Sangdana Mendy reporting from Banjul.
Now, in Benin, the Autonomous National Electoral Commission on Thursday launched a training program for trainers of electoral offices at its headquarters in Cotonou ahead of the presidential election scheduled for April 12, 2026. Through this section, Sinan says it aims to strengthen the capacity of trainers who will play a strategic role in preparing electoral officers to be deployed across the country on election day. Sankula Janko reports.
The opening ceremony was chaired by the president of the institution, Saka Lafia, in the presence of members of the Electoral Council. The objective of the training is to ensure a thorough understanding of electoral procedures and guarantee that voting operations comply with the provisions of the Electoral Code. During the first day of the training, participants were taken through several key modules, including the roles and responsibilities of electoral officers, electoral offences and sanctions, as well as the presentation and proper completion of electoral documents. Other aspects covered in the training focused on the fundamental values of neutrality, impartiality, and integrity, which organizers say remain central pillars of the electoral process.
Sankula Janko with that report.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
The guest interview focuses on Liberia, where the Ministry of Labour has unveiled a strategic plan aimed at tackling rising unemployment, particularly among young people. It also announces plans to strengthen protection for workers across both the public and private sector. Labour Minister Councillor Cooper Kra reaffirmed the government's commitment to enforcing the Decent Work Act of 2015, which outlines measures to improve labour standards in the country. Our guest is the very Labour Minister, Councillor Cooper Kra.
if you presented to us an application, we would determine if the job is supposed to be done by a foreigner or Liberian. If we think Liberian can do the job, we'll not grant you that application. There are also instances where we thought that perhaps there's a need to look at the fees. So we increased the fee from 1,000 to 3,000. What it has done is help us to reduce companies now, concessions, are sending out people they might consider non-essential employees to spend that kind of money on an annual basis. For example, Beer Mountain, after the introduction of the new rate, $3,000, they wrote we cancel about 357 work permit for expatriate staff. They have to send them back. AFCON have done the same thing. WBA has done the same thing. They sent back a number of workers, foreign workers, because they are now trying to listen to us that it's better for, if you employ Liberians, their overhead costs will be cheaper, and so it will be your interest.
There's a thin line. Why you think it was happening that led to you instituting that measure?
Yeah, we thought that maybe because, number one, the fee was cheap. Okay. Because if you compare, at that time, you compare the 1,000 we're collecting. If you look at Ghana, Nigeria, and other African countries, we noticed that they were paying almost 5,000. The associated costs. Maybe the work permit might be 1,500, but you need a lawyer to represent you to do that. You have to file bond. If you want a work permit, like in most of the francophone country, you have to file bond and things like that. So it was more as compared to what we're doing here. So with the adjustment, I think people just thought that it's important to bring in more Liberian workers now.
People think that this issue about work permit is somehow, quote unquote, being given to foreigners. What can you say to Liberians who think that there is corruption within the issuance of a work permit to foreigners?
Well, I like to just say in a simple term that we're not anywhere in the ministry where we would notice anybody with any semblance of corruption in terms of the performance of their duty. We definitely will take action against it. Work permit, the reason we hike the price, we want to make sure that companies should now look to employ more Liberians. And we've seen them. Take, for example, Beer Mountain, end of 2024, the total Liberian workforce there was around 4,000 plus. When we instituted a new increase in the work permit, they canceled about 357 expatriate staff and sent them back.
Liberia's Labour Minister, Councillor Cooper, cried in conversation with Abraham Parker. Now in sports, African champions Nigeria's Tigres suffered a 7-7 to 6-0 defeat to South Korea in their second game at the 2026 FIBA Women's Basketball World Cup qualifying tournament in Lyon, France. South Korea set the tone early with accurate long-range shooting, taking a 36-32 lead at halftime before extending their advantage in the second half. Despite a strong performance from Victoria McCauley, who scored 22 points and grabbed 6 rebounds, Nigeria struggled offensively and managed just 9 points in the final quarter. South Korea's Jahong Park also scored 22 points, while Lee Sul-kang added 20, helping their side secure the convincing win. The Tigres will now turn their attention to their next match against the Philippines as they look to bounce back in the qualifying tournament. And the Confederation of African Football (CAF) has set to review the ruling issued by its disciplinary committee over the controversial 2025 Africa Cup of Nations final between Morocco and Senegal. Reports say CAF's appeals committee has agreed to reopen the case and has asked the federation involved to submit fresh legal arguments to support its appeal. And that's the latest in the world of sports. With that, we've come to the end of this edition of NEWSLINK on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Mustafa Sek and Maudo Ju for the technical support. To interact with us via our social media platforms, X, Instagram, and Facebook at WADR English. I am Augustine Curley. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to NEWSLINK via Hot 104.3 FM,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County,
Radio Kagama 94.5 FM, Niba County, DCN Radio 91.3 FM, Riverside County, Wakat FM Radio, Banga, Liberia, Radio Gulf FM 91.3 Sierra Leone in Nigeria, and Love 104.5 FM Abuja.
For you listening via Radio Pad 95.1 Damango, Savannah region, and on Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi, Ghana, we say a big thank you. Remember, West Africa Democracy Radio